Are you terrified to explore the unknown? Sarah, in her mid-30s, breathing shallow and erratic, clutches the flashlight as she moves cautiously down a long, narrow corridor. The dim glow of a single flashlight flickers over peeling walls, revealing cryptic symbols etched into crumbling plaster. Every step echoes like the drip of water in a tomb. The silence is thick, muffled like sound under a blanket. Each time she shines the light ahead, the darkness seems to swell as though it might spill forward and drown her at any moment. Whispering to herself, she says, "Just keep moving, it's just a place, nothing's here." Her own whisper feels like a betrayal, an admission of fear she thought she'd silenced. She glances down at her phone's clock, 3:27 a.m., then quickly tucks it back in her jacket, willing herself to stay steady. This is gonna blow your mind. Suddenly, a skittering sound behind her. She freezes, swinging the flashlight over her shoulder. The beam catches nothing but the endless stretch of emptiness. She calls out, "Who's there?" Silence, then a shuffle, closer, louder. The flashlight flickers in her grip. With a trembling hand, she swings the light down to the floor. "I think I messed up." A trail of dark, smeared stains stretches along the cracked tiles, leading to a door slightly ajar. Written on the door in crude, scratched letters are the words, "Come in." She hesitates, her heart hammering. The door creaks open wider, though she hasn't touched it. Are you terrified to explore the unknown? Inside there's a chair, and something sitting in it. Her flashlight captures it for just a split second, a figure, slack-jawed, head tilted to one side, eyes wide open yet unseeing. The neck is bent at an impossible angle, and a dark stain glistens at the base of the throat. She gasps and backs away, but something cold brushes against her face. She spins around only to find the corridor empty. I bet you didn't know how terrifying a whisper can be. Sarah. Her skin crawls as the voice repeats her name in a mocking sing-song tone like a nursery rhyme. She tries to scream, but her voice catches in her throat. The whisper grows, spreading around her above and below like a hive of insects swarming her name, growing louder and louder. "Sarah, stop, stop!" But the whisper only grows stronger, morphing from one distorted voice to another until it's a cacophony of taunting, chanting laughter. She can feel hot breath on her neck, the prickling sensation of a hand grazing her arm. Am I the only one that didn't know the whispers could chase you? With a sudden surge of desperation, she bolts back down the corridor, running until she's gasping for breath, until her lungs burn, until she feels the walls narrowing, closing in around her. The whispers chase her, growing louder, closer. She trips, skidding onto her knees. When she glances up, she's back at the door again. Am I the only one that didn't know abandoned asylums could be this terrifying? It's open wider now, and in the darkness something moves, dragging itself slowly into the light. A hand, then another, then a face, twisted and unnatural, mouth stretched in an eternal scream. It pulls itself closer, its blackened eyes fixed on her. She feels her heart stutter as the thing smiles. The whisper crescendos. "Sarah, we've been waiting for you." The flashlight dies, and with it, all hope of escape. You need to hear this if you're a fan of horror stories. As Sarah ran through the forest, she could still hear the whispers following her. The night was far from over, and the true horror was yet to come. The trees seemed to close in around her, their branches like skeletal hands reaching out. The whispering voices grew louder, echoing through the dense foliage, calling her name in a chorus of malice. "Sarah, Sarah, come back to us." Heart pounding, she stumbled over roots and rocks, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The flashlight was gone, its light extinguished in the asylum, leaving her to navigate by the pale moonlight filtering through the canopy. She glanced over her shoulder, and for a moment she saw them. Figures moving through the trees, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. They were closer now, their twisted forms becoming clearer with each passing second. She pushed herself harder, her legs burning with fatigue, but she couldn't stop. Not now, not ever. The whispers were inside her head, wrapping around her thoughts like a vice. "Sarah, you can't escape. You belong with us." She burst into a clearing, and there in the center stood a lone, ancient tree. Its gnarled branches reached out like arms, and at its base a dark opening yawned like a mouth. With no other choice, she ran towards it, hoping against hope that it might offer some refuge from the nightmare that pursued her. As she reached the tree, she heard the whispers one last time, louder than ever. "Welcome home, Sarah." And then, with a final desperate breath, she plunged into the darkness. "Are you terrified of the dark?" paused 2S. Sarah stumbled upon an old cabin in the woods. Desperate for safety, she entered, only to find that the horrors of the asylum had followed her. Pause 2S. The whispers grew louder, and shadows danced on the walls. She closed the door behind her, leaning against it as if to block out the terror she had fled. The interior was dimly lit by a single flickering candle on a wooden table, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. Pause 2S. She took a hesitant step forward, her eyes darting to the corners of the room where the darkness seemed to thicken. The whispers echoed around her, bouncing off the walls in a sinister cacophony. "Sarah, you can't hide." Pause 2S. She moved to the table, her hands trembling as she picked up the candle. The flame revealed a series of old, faded photographs pinned to the wall. Each one depicted scenes from the asylum with familiar faces twisted in agony and despair. Pause 2S. Her heart raced as she recognized herself in one of the photos, standing in a hallway she had never seen before. The shadows on the walls grew more animated, their forms elongating and distorting into ghastly shapes. They seemed to reach out towards her, their dark fingers curling in the air. Pause 2S. With a sudden gust of wind, the candle was extinguished, plunging the cabin into darkness. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the whispers surged, louder and more insistent. "Sarah, join us." Pause 2S. She backed away, her hands searching for something, anything that could provide light. Her fingers brushed against a cold metallic object on a shelf, a lantern. She fumbled with it, her pulse quickening as she managed to ignite the wick. Pause 2S. The lantern's light pushed back the darkness, revealing more of the cabin's interior. But what it revealed was nothing short of horrifying. The shadows were no longer just shadows. They were figures, twisted and malformed, their eyes glowing with that same unnatural light she had seen in the forest. Pause 2S. They moved closer, their whispers now a deafening roar. "Sarah, you can't escape." Pause 2S. In a final act of desperation, Sarah swung the lantern at the nearest figure. The glass shattered and flames erupted, setting the cabin ablaze. The figures recoiled, their forms dissolving in the fire's light. Pause 2S. She seized the moment, rushing out of the cabin and back into the forest. The whispers faded behind her, replaced by the crackling of the flames. But she knew the nightmare was far from over. Pause 2S. As she ran deeper into the woods, she could still hear them, faint but ever present. "Sarah, we will find you." Pause 2S. The night was still dark and the whispers would never truly be silenced. Pause 4S. You need to watch this if you struggle with escaping your past. As the flames consumed the cabin, Sarah stumbled upon an old journal lying on a dusty shelf. Desperate for answers, she grabbed it and fled into the forest. She found a small clearing and opened the journal. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting detailing the asylum's dark history. Sarah read about the rituals binding spirits to the grounds forever. Her heart pounded as she realized she was the next target, but she found a way to break the curse. With renewed determination, Sarah knew what she had to do. She would return to the asylum and perform the ritual. For the first time, she felt a spark of defiance. She would face the horrors, not as a victim, but as a liberator. I don't think people understand the true terror of stepping back into a haunted asylum. The once silent whispers now roared in her ears, urging her forward. Shadows danced on the walls, taunting her with every step. She clutched the journal tightly, its weight grounding her in the reality of her mission. The air grew thick with anticipation as she approached the heart of the asylum, the ritual room. In the flickering light, she saw the remnants of past ceremonies. Her heart pounded, but she knew she had to push through the fear. The spirits were restless and time was running out. With a deep breath, Sarah began to chant the words from the journal, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. She was no longer a victim. She was the key to breaking the curse. The room pulsed with energy, the shadows recoiling as the ritual progressed. The final words echoed through the asylum, a symphony of defiance and liberation. As the last syllable left her lips, the whispers ceased and an eerie silence enveloped the room. Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had done it. She had freed the souls bound to the asylum, but as she turned to leave, a single soft whisper reached her ears. "Thank you." Sarah smiled, knowing that she had not only saved herself, but had given peace to the restless spirits. The asylum was finally at rest, and so was she. You need to hear this if you're fascinated by hidden secrets. Intrigued, she pulled the fabric aside, revealing a hidden room she had never seen before. With a deep breath, she pushed the creaky door open. The room was filled with dust-covered shelves lined with old journals and faded photographs. As she flipped through the brittle pages, a chilling realization dawned upon her. These journals detailed the dark history of the asylum, experiments, rituals, and the suffering of countless souls. The whispers, now gentle and guiding, led her to a corner of the room. There, tucked away in a hidden compartment, she discovered a final journal. This one held a secret that had been buried for decades, a secret that explained the true origin of the asylum's curse. Images of the past flashed before her eyes, revealing the twisted minds behind the asylum's horrors. The truth was more sinister than she had ever imagined. But armed with this knowledge, Sarah knew she could ensure that such darkness would never rise again. The whispers had guided her well, and now they too could rest in peace. As Sarah closed the final journal, she felt a new sense of purpose. The asylum's secrets were no longer hidden, and its story could finally be told. With a determined heart, she left the hidden room, ready to face whatever awaited her next. This is why you need to face your fears. The asylum's secrets were no longer hidden, and its story could finally be told. With a determined heart, she left the hidden room, ready to face whatever awaited her next. But the asylum wasn't done with her yet. As she stepped into the hallway, the air grew thick with tension. The whispers, once gentle and guiding, now turned into agonized cries. The spirits of the tormented souls revealed themselves, their faces twisted in eternal anguish. Sarah's heart pounded as she realized she had to confront the dark force that had been haunting her all along. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows growing darker and more menacing. Sarah could feel the malevolent presence drawing closer, feeding off her fear. But she stood her ground, clutching the final journal to her chest like a shield. The climax was intense, a battle of wills between Sarah and the dark force. The spirits circled her, their whispers turning into screams, urging her to fight. With every ounce of courage, Sarah opened the journal and began reading the incantation that would banish the darkness forever. The asylum shuddered, the walls cracking as the dark force resisted. But Sarah's voice grew stronger, her determination unwavering. In a final, climactic moment, the dark force let out a deafening roar and dissipated into nothingness. The asylum fell silent, the spirits finally at peace. Sarah stood alone in the hallway, the weight of her journey lifting from her shoulders. She had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The asylum's curse was broken and its tormented souls were free at last. With a deep breath, Sarah walked out of the asylum, the dawn breaking on the horizon. The story of the asylum's horrors was over, but Sarah's story was just beginning. If you enjoyed Sarah's journey, don't forget to like and subscribe for more thrilling stories.